Imagine waking up one morning to a world that promises you everything you ever dreamed of, faster than you ever thought possible. A world where money grows on trees, opportunities knock on every door, and success seems just one step away. Sounds perfect, right? But here's the truth. Not everything that glitters is gold. Not every promise is real. Because somewhere, hidden in the shadows of all that sparkle, lies an illusion. One that can take your dreams, your happiness, and everything you've worked for in the blink of an eye. This is the story of a simple village and the trap that changed it forever. A story about desire, greed, and the illusions that can make ordinary people do extraordinary mistakes without even realizing it. Pay close attention, because the lesson here is not just for them, it's for every single one of us. Once upon a time, in a quiet little village nestled between rolling hills and winding rivers, life moved at its own gentle pace. People woke with the sun, worked with their hands, and rested under the stars. The shopkeeper, a man known for his honesty and kindness, had a small store that sold everything the village needed, nothing more, nothing less. He didn't own a mansion, he didn't have a fancy carriage, and he certainly didn't make wealth that could change the world overnight. But every coin he earned came with pride, and every meal he shared with his family came with love. The villagers lived like this too. Simple, steady, and content. Children played in the fields with laughter that echoed through the hills. Neighbors helped one another without expecting anything in return. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real. Every person knew that the value of work was not measured in gold, but in effort, trust, and patience. And then it arrived. A stranger from beyond the hills, a man with a sharp suit, an even sharper smile, and promises that sparkled brighter than the morning sun. He told the villagers that their lives could change in a matter of days, that wealth, luxury, and success were not distant dreams, but something they could grasp, if only they dared. The shopkeeper listened, as did the villagers, and at first it seemed harmless. After all, who wouldn't want a little extra comfort? Who wouldn't dream of more than just simple survival? But there's a quiet danger in dreams that arrive too easily, in opportunities that feel too perfect. The kind of danger that whispers, "You can have it all, just reach out." And like that, the rhythm of the village began to shift. Curiosity turned into excitement, excitement into desire, and desire into the first step toward illusion. One day, the villagers noticed a stranger walking down the winding road into their village. He carried himself with confidence, every step measured, every smile calculated. His eyes sparkled with promises, and his words, they were like honey. "I have come to offer you a chance," he said, "a chance to change your lives forever. Wealth beyond your imagination, comfort beyond your dreams, all waiting just for you." The villagers paused, uncertain. Some whispered to one another, skeptical. Others, however, felt a flutter of hope they hadn't felt in years. After all, life had been simple, yes, but often hard. The promise of something greater was intoxicating. The shopkeeper watched quietly. He had always known that hard work bore fruit over time, but even he couldn't ignore the sparkle in the businessman's eyes, the charts, the numbers, the golden coins laid out as proof. And just like that, the seed of desire was planted, not in a loud, obvious way, but subtly, quietly, in the hearts of every villager who dared to dream of more. At first, the businessman suggested only a small step. "Just try a little," he said. "See how it feels. You'll be surprised at what you can achieve." The first few villagers decided to invest. They used a little of their savings, the money they had set aside for daily needs. And then it happened. They saw returns, small, yes, but real. Coins doubled, profits multiplied, and the excitement spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone believed in the impossible. Conversations that had once been about crops and trade turned into whispers of fortune. "I could do this too," one villager said. "If they can make money, so can I." The shopkeeper felt a tightening in his chest. He remembered the rhythm of the village, the value of patience, the quiet satisfaction of steady work. But even he could feel the pull, the lure of quick gains, of a life that seemed just within reach. And this is where desire takes hold. When something appears too perfect, too easy, we forget caution. We stop asking questions. We start chasing dreams without checking if they are real. And sometimes that is when the trap is already closing around us. With each passing day, the village seemed to sparkle with new hope. The villagers who had invested early were showing small gains, and their excitement was contagious. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about dreams, status, the feeling of being part of something bigger than themselves. The businessman smiled quietly as he watched. Every conversation, every whispered plan, every eager step the villagers took brought him closer to his real goal. Prices were rising, demands were growing, and yet the villagers didn't notice. All they saw was opportunity, glittering like sunlight on water. "This is your chance," he would say casually. "Don't miss it." And just like that, the rhythm of their lives began to change. Markets buzzed with talk of profits. Homes were decorated with the illusion of wealth. Friendships subtly shifted as comparisons and envy crept in. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, common sense began to fade. Questions that once seemed obvious, "Is this too good to be true?" or "What could go wrong?" were pushed aside. Desire had grown louder than caution, and the illusion had taken root firmly in every heart. But illusions, no matter how bright, cast shadows. And in every shadow, there is a warning waiting to be seen. Some villagers began taking bigger risks. They borrowed money, sold things they needed, and invested far more than they could afford. The shopkeeper noticed the change. Families were worried, conversations were filled with anxiety, and yet the pull of quick gains was too strong to resist. Just one more chance, they told themselves. This time it will work. And then it happened. Small signs of instability began to appear. Some gains didn't come as promised. A few deals faltered. Panic whispered through the streets like a cold wind. But the villagers, intoxicated by the vision of wealth, ignored it. They believed that the next investment, the next chance, would fix everything. This is the moment where many fail, not because they are greedy, not because they are careless, but because they confuse hope with certainty. They chase dreams without considering the cost, and in doing so, they step directly into the trap. The first cracks appeared quietly, almost unnoticed. A few villagers didn't receive the returns they were promised. Small gains disappeared as quickly as they had appeared. Panic began to ripple through the streets, subtle at first, then growing louder with every passing day. The businessman, calm and composed, continued to promise miracles, but the villagers' illusion was starting to crumble. Coins that once seemed endless now vanished like sand slipping through their fingers. Shops that once buzzed with excitement fell silent. Families who had borrowed money faced the grim reality of debt. Dreams of quick wealth turned into fears of loss. And the shopkeeper, standing outside his store, watched helplessly as the village he had known, the laughter, the simple joy, the trust, began to fracture under the weight of greed and illusion. This is the harsh truth. When desire overtakes judgment, the world can turn on you in the blink of an eye. What was once hope becomes despair. What was once promise becomes regret. And what was once ordinary life becomes a cautionary tale. Among the chaos, the shopkeeper's story stood out. He had trusted in honesty, in patience, in the rhythm of life he had always known. Yet even he had been caught in the subtle pull of desire. His savings, carefully earned over years, were gone. His family worried, his friends distrusted, blaming one another for mistakes they hadn't even fully understood. Other villagers suffered in ways equally devastating. The baker who had borrowed coins to invest now had no bread to bake. The carpenter who had dreamt of building a new home now struggled to feed his family. And the children who had once laughed freely now watched their parents' faces etched with fear and disappointment. And yet, in the midst of this despair, a quiet truth began to emerge. Loss teaches lessons that no gain ever can. Pain forces reflection. Mistakes show the path to wisdom. And for those willing to listen, even the darkest moments can light the way to a better future. The shopkeeper looked at the village around him, at the faces of those he had known all his life, and he realized something profound. It wasn't wealth that was the enemy. It was the illusion of wealth, the belief that life could be traded for something too good to be true. In the days that followed the collapse, the village was quiet. The laughter had faded, and the streets were filled with the echoes of what had been lost. But amidst the silence, something remarkable began to happen. The shopkeeper reopened his small store, not with dreams of wealth, but with the determination to rebuild with honesty and patience. Villagers helped one another, sharing what little they had, teaching their children lessons that could not be bought. Slowly, the truth settled in their hearts. Easy money is rarely real, and shortcuts often lead to ruin. The illusion that had trapped them was not born out of greed alone, but out of the desire to believe in a dream too perfect to exist. And in that realization, there was freedom. Freedom from the false promises that had ensnared them. Freedom from comparing themselves to what others had or what they thought they could have. The village had been humbled, but it had also been awakened. The shopkeeper looked around at the faces of his neighbors, some weary, some hopeful, and whispered a quiet truth that would stay with them forever. Life cannot be traded for illusions. True wealth is patience, wisdom, and integrity. This story of a simple village is not just a tale from the past. It is a mirror reflecting the world we live in today. Everywhere, people are tempted by promises that seem too good to be true. The crypto hype, stock market schemes, guaranteed profit offers, trending investments that look perfect. These are the illusions of our modern age. And just like the villagers, people risk their savings, their peace of mind, even their relationships, chasing dreams that vanish as quickly as they appear. The lesson is timeless. Greed is not the enemy. The real danger is the illusion of easy gain, the belief that life can be traded for something too perfect to exist. Every opportunity that promises instant wealth should be questioned. Every offer that sounds too good should be examined carefully. And the question to remember forever is simple yet powerful. If this chance is truly golden, why is it being shared with me? Because those who pause, reflect, and choose wisdom over desire will always protect the most valuable thing they have: their life, their choices, and their peace of mind. The village had changed. The mistakes of yesterday were not forgotten, but they were no longer a source of despair. The shopkeeper, standing outside his small, sturdy store, looked around and saw something remarkable: resilience, wisdom, and the quiet power of choosing what truly matters. No one had become rich overnight. No one had gained instant fame or fortune. And yet, in their hearts, they were wealthier than ever before. They had learned a truth that the illusions could never teach, that life cannot be traded for promises too good to be true, and that patience, integrity, and careful choices are the most valuable treasures of all. The villagers began rebuilding, not just their homes or shops, but their understanding of life. They focused on things that mattered: family, community, knowledge, and the small victories that come from steady effort. And with each choice made wisely, the shadows of illusion faded further, leaving clarity, peace, and a renewed sense of purpose. The story of this village is more than just a tale from the past. It is a mirror for all of us. In a world filled with promises of instant wealth and effortless success, it is easy to be tempted. But remember this: greed is not the enemy. The real enemy is the illusion of easy money. Whenever a chance seems too perfect, too fast, too golden, pause. Question it. Reflect on whether it is truly a blessing or just bait. Life is not a game of shortcuts. It is a journey built on wisdom, patience, and courage. So today, ask yourself one simple question. If this chance is so golden, why is it being shared with me? Choose wisely. Protect your life, your peace, and your future. Because real success is not in illusions. It is in living a life guided by truth, integrity, and the courage to act wisely.